Hello, you've landed on the Lonely Diplomat podcast, and wherever you are in the world, from Abu Dhabi, Abuja, Accra, Addis Ababa, Algiers, Amman, Andorra, Ankara, Antananarivo, Apia, Ashgabat, Asmara, Asuncion, and Athens, and all places in between. Welcome. I'm Phil McAuliffe. I'm the Lonely Diplomat. And repeat listeners of the Lonely Diplomat podcast will recognize that we are starting the alphabet back over again with really quite a lot of A capitals in the world in English, aren't there? Welcome to this episode 34 of the Lonely Diplomat podcast. And if you're joining me by listening via a podcast server, welcome. Or if you're watching on YouTube, welcome to you too. This episode is the first episode of 2021. And I've just got used to saying 2020 and writing 2020 when I wrote down dates, and still I catch myself to saying, stop myself from saying at times, it's 2019 or some year like 20 years ago or something like that. Anyway, time marches on, and this is the first episode of 2021. And I hope that wherever you are in the world, that you and yours are staying safe, staying well, and have been able to enjoy a restorative and a recharging festive season. 2021 promises to be another action-packed year for us diplomats and those who live the diplomatic life, as it is, as I'm intending it to be, here on the Lonely Diplomat. So if you are a first-time listener, welcome. I want to invite you to go and check out my website, thelonelydiplomat.com, which is all about providing, supporting, serving, challenging and inspiring. I'm a bit rusty, listener and viewer for this first episode. Bear with me, please. And all designed to help challenge, support, inspire, and serve diplomats and those living the diplomatic life as they lead their diplomatic life wherever they lead it in the world. And if you are a return listener, it's so great to have you here. If you're a return viewer on YouTube, it's so great to have you here. Let's jump in to the topic of episode 34, which asks or is a response to the question that I was asked by one of you, my awesome audience somewhere in the world, about whether they should do another posting. And the question was, Phil, we're thinking of doing another posting after being home for a few years. We don't know if we should. The kids are getting older and their schooling is becoming more serious as they prepare to go into university. On top of that, our parents are getting older too, and we don't want to move too far away from them. Plus, there's the whole COVID situation as well. What's your advice? My advice, and firstly, thank you so much for sending that question to me by email to admin@thelonelydiplomat.com. And if you, listener, have got a question, please feel free to send that to me using that email address. And there's a link to that email address in the episode description for this episode and on YouTube. But my answer to the question, after some reflection, is that this is such a common concern, common query for us as we get into our own, as much as it pains me to say it at times, our own middle age, our own mid-career. And we find ourselves, many of us, find ourselves feeling more and more responsible for the welfare of our parents, and entirely understandable that is the case. And many of us also have the responsibility for children as parents. So we not only are children ourselves, we have children ourselves, and with each of those come similar and different responsibilities. Now, some of you in my awesome global audience won't have children. Some of you won't have parents. Others, however your familial circumstances are, I invite you to consider this question from your own lived perspective and lived experience right now. Because the question of should we go on another posting is actually really, it's real, it's live, it's contentious, and it can cause some stress and general hand-wringing for us, as I said, as we enter our mid-careers. Because by our mid-careers, we are sufficiently senior enough in our employing organisations, generally speaking, we're sufficiently senior enough that when we do go on another posting, we're in a position to actually really affect real change. We have greater responsibilities, or potentially greater responsibilities, that can really shape and directly influence in a really exciting way, perhaps for the first time in our careers, the direction of our country's relationship with another country or within a multilateral institution, whatever the case might be. And that actually, after perhaps one or two postings at a junior level, that having done that apprenticeship, that diplomatic apprenticeship of a sort, that prospect of affecting real change while at work is professionally tremendously exciting. And finally, after perhaps 15, 20 years in our employing organizations, we're getting into a position where we can do that. But then we have outside of work, our life, and that we are a son or a daughter, we are a mother or a father. We have caring responsibilities, and this is the time when as the question says, the kids are perhaps getting to the pointy end of their education and need stability, both in terms of their education and social life. And our parents aren't getting any younger. So this is a really it's a real consideration that can really give us pause. And do we step off the posting circuit for a few years and risk never getting back on, or do we stay on and risk making a decision that puts us at the wrong place at the wrong time for the people who are most important to us? And on top of all of that, those familial considerations, our significant other, if we are attached, if we do have a significant other who will be accompanying on the posting, there's the real consideration that perhaps after one or two postings, that they're getting to midlife as well and want to put their skills, their professional expertise to use and create their own career. And so it's not only diplomats. I'm going to say this, the posted diplomat, a reminder that it is not always about you. You are important, but you are a half of a team, in case you needed reminding of that. And the other half of the team also needs, in case you needed reminding, also needs to have feel that they are contributing, that they feel connected, that they feel seen, heard, and that they belong where they are and with whom they are in the world. It's a basic human necessity. So, and we can get to that point of life where, and in a relationship where the significant other, the diplomatic significant other goes, you know what? I actually want to go to work now. I want to go and be awesome in my field of expertise. I want my time to shine. And there's the real consideration of like, can that happen? Could that happen while on another diplomatic posting, and wherever that might be, and the various individuals' considerations that come within that family unit, within that relationship, within the place of potential posting. Now, my friend Amel Derrigui from Tandem Nomads has an entire business, an entire online presence designed to help significant others with those considerations and helping people to create a portable business. And we indeed had a great chat, and I think it was something like episode 19, maybe episode 17, but it was the first episode of the Lonely Diplomat podcast for 2020. After you've listened to this, I really recommend, and if this applies to you, I really recommend that you go and listen to that episode and to have a great chat, and take a pen and paper, because there's just so many pearls of wisdom that you want to capture. But back to this question, there are a whole lot of considerations that apply uniquely to you in your individual circumstances, be you in a relationship, be you have you parents or relatives who are getting older, children or no children, children who are at school or at university or wherever they are, or even preschool. Whatever your circumstances are, my answer is the same, and I'm going to take a step up and back for this, so it applies to as many of you as possible. And my response focuses on the word should in the question: should we do another posting? And should, to me, always is a word that raises red flags within me, because as we've discussed in a previous episode on the Lonely Diplomat podcast with my friend Dougal Sutherland, on midlife crises, we can find ourselves shoulding all over the place. We should all over ourselves, and I shouldn't feel this because I am this. And those shoulds can get us each and every time if we are not aware. So I invite you to consider the should in this question, specifically around the notion of who says you should. Specifically around the notion of who says you shouldn't do something, think something, say something, whatever it is. Who says? Who says? That should be, caught myself there. Should, must, needs to, working my way around should there. Should elicit a reflexive response within us of who says. Should, who says? Should, who says? And it's incredibly powerful within ourselves. I find it incredibly powerful within myself. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Like, who says? Who says? No, generally it's me saying I shouldn't. It's incredibly powerful at work. Oh, we should do this because people are expecting it. Who says? Who says that we should do this? And who are the people? Let's get clear there and actually see if we are shoulding all over ourselves inappropriately. In this instance, should we do another posting? Zeroing in on that word should is key here. Because in answering the question of should, who says, if you are going to make a decision based on what you think other people expect you should do, Let that sink in and use finger puppets if need be to capture all the characters at play in that little interaction, which happens all the time, and we just kind of swim in that soup generally. If we are making decisions based on what we think people should, you know what I mean? I'm getting myself, I need finger puppets myself. We're bound to make a decision that is not right for us. We're bound to. We're bound to make a decision that we will regret. If not all of it, some of it. To a greater or lesser extent. We will come to regret making a decision based on what we think other people expect that we should do. So the answer to that, in my humble view, is to invite you, dear questioner, to reflect on your values. What is important to you as an individual, both in terms of your career, both in terms of your relationship, your family, your want to experience of the world? What is important to you and why? And it's only when we know that for ourselves as individuals, be we in a relationship, be we a parent, be we a child ourselves, once we know that within ourselves, we can then build our circle outwards. Our own individual values beget a conversation within our relationship about what the relationship's values are, which then begets a conversation about what a family's values are, and then begets at work. Knowing what your values are begets a discussion about what your team's values are. And values are invaluable because they form the framework which we use to make decisions when we don't know what we need to do. We don't know what we should do, so we can always come back to our values. Knowing your values is one thing, because then we have to live our values. And that's the joy of life, because in living our values, we risk pretty much all the time, it comes to pass, disappointing someone. But the question then becomes, the invitation then becomes, it's like, well, you know, is this person going to get over it? And too often, if we don't know our values, and too often if we don't live our values, we make decisions based on what we think other people expect that we should do. Not you now, though. Not you now, my awesome audience. Be you on YouTube or on listening wherever you are in the world on this podcast. Not you. You now know that if you don't have values clearly articulated in a place where you can really see them, when you can really begin to live them, they become who you are, because they are. Your values are who you are. Once you start to live them, you will then have that framework to make those bigger decisions. That doesn't make them easier, doesn't make them any less, bring up any less amount of angst, but it gives you a way forward. Because no one can tell you, me included in all my awesomeness, listener, can tell you what you should and shouldn't do. I don't know your circumstances, only you know your circumstances. So the invitation is there to make your decision based on what you, as an individual, know to be true to yourself, what you, in your relationship, what you as a family know to be important for you. Was that helpful? I hope it was helpful. Please let me know if you've got any further questions, or you've got any comments, as the person who asked the question. But also to you, listener and viewer, it's the invitation to you to send me your questions and your dilemmas about this diplomatic life, about your diplomatic life and where you're living it in the world. And I will respond to it. I'll give it some thought and I'll respond to it on an upcoming episode of the Lonely Diplomat podcast. So send those questions in, send it to me by email, admin@thelonelydiplomat.com. Feel free to send it to me as a DM on my Instagram page, and which is at _lonely_diplomat, or at the Lonely Diplomat on Facebook. Send me a message. Wherever the kids are sending it to me, there's no wrong way of sending it to me, but they're ways that get to me. That I get notifications for. As always, and it wouldn't feel right as a podcaster and I guess now as a YouTuber to say, to sign off without saying, liking this, commenting on this, sharing this, and following or subscribing on your preferred social media really does help me appease the social media gods and lets other people know that they're not alone in living the highs and lows of this diplomatic life. And as always, it goes without saying, I hope that word of mouth is simply the best form of promotion. And so if you did get some value out of this episode, share it with someone who you feel would benefit from listening to this episode as well. Finally, if you got something out of this episode and you want me and my unique experience as a two-time posted diplomat, as a two-time accompanying significant other, as a parent, as someone who has wrestled with his sexuality, someone who has really lived life, is living life while living the diplomatic life, you can get me in your corner as a mentor. So if you'd like that, go follow the link to thelonelydiplomat.com. That's in the episode description. And sign up as a minister level member. And minister level members get a one-on-one conversation with me for an hour once every 3 months, or become an ambassador level member and have a one-on-one mentoring session with me for an hour every month. So all the details are at thelonelydiplomat.com. There's going to be a link in the episode description, as I said below. Anyway, that's enough for this episode, and it sounds like you're getting ready to leave anyway. So until next time, be awesomely and humanly you, because the world really does need more you.